Hey everybody, Steve Foster here, SpanishMedical.com, and this is our first orientation video for the pre-health trip this summer. Really excited for you guys to be here, really excited for the trip, and I'm excited to start our journey together as far as making sure that you have a great and unforgettable experience. So hopefully you are with us. If you are live right now on YouTube, then we are going to be doing a question and answer at the end. If there are any questions, hopefully we'll be able to go through the majority of your questions as we go through this. So please feel free to send over some questions, and hopefully they'll get answered as we go through this. I'm going to go ahead and go over to the presentation right now that will go through the agenda and what we're going to be going through and some of the, the visuals and the items like that. So I'm going to stop with the video and go over to that screen share. Okay. So here we go. All right, so this is orientation session number 1. We are going to be having a follow-up session that will be, we haven't set a date on it yet, but most likely about 2.5 to 3.5 weeks before departure, with a little bit more details and kind of logistical items, and introducing you to your family homestay, and just continuing in the conversation. So I'll be sending that out as far as when that will be. And again, it'll be something where if you do need to join in a little bit later, although since it is closer to the trip, hopefully not too much later, the goal is to make it so everybody can see both of the orientation sessions. That's a big component of doing a facilitated experience like that. And since we do have people from multiple locations, it makes it less likely that we can get together in person, and luckily we do have this platform. So the agenda for today is, and hopefully we're talking in the neighborhood of 60 minutes tops. I'll try to kind of go through this as efficiently as possible and make sure that that's kind of the goal, is to be in the 45 to 60 minute range. So if it's something where you need to, pick a time to hit pause and then come back to it, that's fine. Whatever works best for you. But please make sure that you are going through eventually the entire video. We're going to be doing some introductions as far as about SpanishMedical.com, Guatemala, this year's cohort, some safety and health items as far as Guatemala goes. Culture shock, we're going to start that conversation. Some frequently asked questions, taking a look at the calendar, which I believe everybody has already gotten a chance to look at, taking a look at the medical components of the program, and then going into some extra items as far as reading, viewing, things like that, and then some question and answer if it permits itself. Before we go on, I just want to make sure, if you did not receive the care package that got sent, I believe there's one person, Sifa, who we haven't sent that yet. So I'll make sure to get that to you, Sifa/CC. But other than that, I believe that you should have received a book, which is called The Rough Guide to Guatemala, and then also a Spanish Medical t-shirt. So if you did not receive that, please let me know, except Sifa, I'll be getting that to you. Probably I'll be sending that out on Tuesday. First of all, SpanishMedical.com. The mission is to be able to help increase the cultural and linguistic competency for the medical community. And the way that we do this is to be able to work with some Spanish language schools and people throughout Latin America, in this case, Guatemala, to be able to provide an intensive Spanish immersion program with a medical component. So that's just meant to kind of ground us as far as what this is. So a little bit more about SpanishMedical.com. It was established in 2003, so we've been doing this for a long time. Where have we worked? As you can see, Argentina, Chile, Peru, of course, Guatemala. And then we did do some work in Mexico. We recently, actually, it wasn't necessarily recently, I would say about 4 years ago, we stopped our operations in Mexico with a lot of the cartel type stuff that was going on. We found that it wasn't the right thing to do as far as safety goes. So that's why we did that. Who are we talking about? Primarily myself, Steve, as the founder and program coordinator, and then my colleague Blanca Solares, who is based out of Guatemala, and she's actually going to be leading through the trip, the facilitation part of it this year. So because of the size of our cohort and a few other reasons, I'm not going to be going down to Guatemala this summer. So Blanca is amazing. She's been doing this for a long, long time. We're going through some profiles of both myself and her. And so you're in good hands. And she's a Guatemalan. She's based in Guatemala. Her and her daughter, especially, who's studying English at the university, adult, grown daughter, they will make sure that you're taken care of. So speaking of which, here's some information about Blanca. Thought I'd start it out in Spanish to be able to let you, do a little practicing. So if you'd like, you can feel free to pause and kind of soak it in a little bit and try to go through and see what it says as far as her experience and her professional profile. There's a picture of Blanca with her family. As I had mentioned, she does have also a daughter who is studying English at the university, who I believe is in the neighborhood of, she's actually similar age to you guys. I want to say she's like probably 21, maybe 22. So anyways, here's the English version. So as you can see, she has 20 years of experience as a host family, her and her family, for Spanish students. So similar to what you guys will be experiencing as far as going into a Guatemalan family, having your accommodations, being a part of the, of the culture. It's a really important cultural piece that we really emphasize. She did that for 20 years. 25 years, she has been a Spanish teacher. She also has been a Spanish school coordinator for a few different Spanish schools. She got her training at the Universidad de Guatemala Rural, and she received her certification in Spanish teaching. And then she also has been a group leader, which not only goes into the Spanish classes side of things, but also, like it says on that bottom bullet there, coordinating volunteer work, cultural activities, tourist excursions. So a lot of the different things that will be a part of this program. She's already worked with the group out of Quebec, Canada, and then I also have worked with her in a different project. So like I said, you're in great hands. A little bit about myself. My undergraduate education is primarily in international business, hence this organization that we have, as well as history. And that's actually what I'm using kind of on my 9-to-5 job right now. I teach social studies, which a big part of that is history, at a public middle school. I teach 7th grade. I received my master's degree from the University of Denver. So I know we have some representation from DU. So go Pios, national hockey champions, pretty exciting. And then on the medical side, like I had mentioned, I'm no longer involved on the medical side for my 9-to-5, my daytime job. But I was involved as an operations manager at a low-income health center here in Colorado that's called Salud Family Health Center. The branch that I was the operations manager was in Fort Collins. And so that basically meant that I supervised the front and the back office, scheduling medical records. And then I also was asked to do a lot of interpretation for the physicians. And then my staff also was put in that position where I would be asked to arrange for the interpretation. And that was kind of what spawned SpanishMedical.com, is that we had these brilliant physicians that were highly trained in medicine, but it was very, very difficult for them to communicate to the patient because, as it says on the bottom there, over 75% of our patient population was Spanish speaking only. So it doesn't matter how good of a physician you are, if you're not able to communicate with the patient for a variety of reasons, it's not going to be an effective experience, and you're not going to be an effective provider. So I'm glad that you made the decision to do something about that. I think that it's not only going to help you out in your long-term career, but I also think that it's going to give you a leg up as you begin to look into medical schools and start to put together those applications and those types of things. So that's another big thing about this program, is to provide the tools that you need as far as that goes. About this year's cohort, this is the second ever facilitated Spanish immersion. We did have a group, and this was towards the beginning of Spanish Medical, that went to Chile. And so the picture that you see are a couple people from this group that were doing some medical shadowing. It was the first ever facilitated Spanish immersion experience with pre-health students. So the group that we went with to Chile, they were medical students. And so so a little bit of difference there as far as pre-health in this time around versus medical students. They were first year medical students that had just finished their first year. It was during the summer as well. And then from then to now, it has been a situation where it's been kind of, if somebody's interested in going, whether they're a medical student, pre-health, a practicing nurse, physician, whatever, then we have all of our contacts down in the various countries, whether it's Guatemala or Peru or Chile or Argentina. And then we work with the Spanish school that provides for the kind of facilitation. So the added benefit of this time around is that you do get Blanca, and it's going to be more of an inclusive program as far as some of the excursions. And then with the some of the medical activities are something that wouldn't have been possible if somebody would just be sent down there without the facilitation. So yeah, it's going to be great as far as being able to have the facilitated piece. We're starting out small. So it's a great opportunity in my mind. At first, I was a little bummed that we didn't get a few more signups. We have 2 participants this summer. So the 2 universities that are represented are, like I previously mentioned, DU, the University of Denver, and then Lincoln University. And then the years are freshman and sophomore in undergrad. So I know that you guys will be a great support mechanism for each other. You are going to be staying in the same family situation. And so we'll also, as we get closer to departure, have some opportunities for, if you want to be able to kind of reach out to each other and talk about various things, whether it's like, what are you packing, which we'll also talk about, or, what are some things that you're thinking about bringing along for your gift for your family, or for your, different things like that, or what are some things that you're excited about, or different things like that. So we'll make sure to put you in touch with each other. A little bit about Guatemala. It has been for thousands of years, actually, the centerpiece of the great Mayan civilization. A lot of people, like from my historical knowledge side of things, and from my experience, a lot of people feel that the Mayan civilization is no longer, but that's absolutely not true. It's still alive and strong. However, in 1525, the Spanish conquistadors did arrive, and that did shift things quite a bit. If you'll remember from probably your high school Latin American history class or whatever the case may be, the main thing that kind of did wipe out a lot of the indigenous people was the diseases that they brought with them. But then also the fact that they were pretty ruthless as well as far as taking territory. So that was a big turning point. And then they did receive independence from Spain in 1821. But then in 1960, there was, and part of this is due to the whole Cold War, and the United States had a big integral part of kind of making this happen. There was a civil war that occurred for about 36 years, just ended in 1996, which also just so happens to be the first time that I ever went down to Guatemala. And so I was actually in Guatemala for the first time when that civil war was still kind of closing out. So yeah, from then to now, it's been a gradual kind of transition into democracy. Although, there's still some work to be done as far as corruption and things like that. It could be argued that the same is true with any country in the world. But yeah, as far as democracy now versus then, it's come a long ways. As far as the size of Guatemala, I love this visual. This is actually from the CIA World Fact Book. And I use this sometimes with my students. So as you can see, the red there is Guatemala, and the red cities are Guatemalan cities, and it's transposed onto what a lot of people from the United States know, which is the United States. And so you can see there that it's, if it were placed right there, it would be a little bit smaller than the state of Pennsylvania. So that hopefully will give you a little bit of perspective of the size. And so we are going to be fairly close to the capital city. Once you get picked up outside of customs and passport control, then it'll be about maybe anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half drive, depending on traffic. So I would put Antigua right about where the cursor is right now, maybe a little bit more like on the L of Quetzaltenango. So yeah, it's pretty close by the capital city of Guatemala City. Safety and health. So we're going to be getting into various things to watch as far as safety goes, making sure that we can stay as safe as possible. We're going to be getting into culture shock and some different things to be aware of as well, related like to traveler's diarrhea and some other waterborne illnesses. So please keep in mind that Guatemala is considered a developing country. So the average income among Guatemalans is only about $5,000, a little bit more than $5,000 a year. So compared to the United States, where I believe now it's in the neighborhood of like $48,000 a year, it kind of puts things in perspective as far as that they're definitely not at the same developmental level as the United States. One of the main things that we'll get into a little bit later is that the water quality in Guatemala is one of the main roots of a lot of the different disease and different problems. They have the worst water in the Western Hemisphere outside of Haiti. They're still recovering from, like I previously mentioned, this civil war. So, especially with maybe your host mother or some of the older teachers that we'll be working with, or maybe your collaborating person at your clinic or hospital that you'll be working with, you'll notice that there's definitely still a lot of fresh scars from the civil conflict. A lot of people lost family members and were directly involved for whatever reason on either side of the conflict. So please be delicate as far as if you ever broach that subject with whether it be your host family or your Spanish professor or anybody on the medical side of things, because it is still really sensitive. Developmentally, it would be considered in the same realm as Nicaragua, Ghana, Morocco, and Iraq. So that kind of hopefully will let you get an idea of where Guatemala is developmentally. Vaccinations. So So please make sure, and I'll share this presentation with you as well. So please make sure that you're starting to go through that and you check with your primary care physicians as far as what types of vaccinations that you're going to need. It is extremely recommended that you obviously keep up with your routine vaccinations. And then the two big ones are either hepatitis A and typhoid. So those are pretty much, depending on who you talk to, required. But then at your discretion, I would also recommend the malaria. It's something that has gotten a lot better as of recently because you're going to be in malaria is mosquito past, obviously. And you're going to be in Tikal, which is the main tropical area. Antigua is actually not a big thing as far as mosquitoes go, and especially mosquitoes that have malaria. But since you are going to be going into Tikal for a few days, I would recommend that you get that malaria medication. You can just take it during the time that you're in Tikal. I think they have you start a few days early to be able to kind of get that into your system. But yeah, that's the great thing is it used to have a lot of side effects, but the malaria medication's gotten a lot better recently. And then hepatitis B and rabies medication are also, the stray dog situation for those people that have been outside of the United States at all or regularly, that we're really fortunate here in the U.S. where we have a really involved animal shelter system and that sort of thing. But throughout Guatemala and also in Antigua, the stray dogs and cat situation is a lot different than in the United States. So it's more of a precautionary thing. If you just make sure that you're not like approaching stray animals, then you'll probably be fine. But check with your doctor. So as far as water, you will have safe zones, which are mainly going to be the family homestay that you'll be with, as well as the Spanish school. So the school that we work with will have those big kind of water jugs that are purified water, as well as your family homestay will have that right in the kitchen there. And so please make sure that you are taking advantage of that. That's not anything that's going to cost extra. Please do not use the sink for anything that's going to be that you'll be drinking, including brushing your teeth. I would also recommend brushing your teeth wise to use a water bottle that has the purified water as opposed to using the sink, even to wash off your toothbrush. So that would be a recommendation. I do know people that have used, at least to like wash off their toothbrush, that have used the sink for that and haven't gotten sick. But from my perspective, it's better to be safe than sorry. And, having that traveler's diarrhea or in certain instances, a bacterial disease that you end up needing to have antibiotics or whatever the case may be, it's not fun. So, and then also if you go out to restaurants, which you don't have to because all the meals will be provided for you. But if you do go to restaurants, then it always is a good idea to at least ask, especially if you notice that the drinks have ice in them, which usually they will not. But if you do notice that, then you would want to probably ask and make sure that that ice is from purified water. And then also if you have any type of like a salad or any type of vegetables that would require washing, then I would probably ask as well as far as what type of water was used to wash those vegetables. Let's just talk for a slide or two about personal safety. And so I already had mentioned to one of the participants that overall Antigua is a very safe city. So despite what maybe like the US government or other media outlets that you'll read about Guatemala say, usually what they're talking about is when the Civil War was still happening, as far as that it's like a state of disarray or whatever the case may be. That's not true. Antigua in particular is a really, really safe city. And in fact, they have a tourist police that is dedicated to making sure that tourists and people from outside of Guatemala stay safe. You'll see the presence of the tourist police in Parque Central, which is going to be in your orientation tour with Blanca. And so she'll point those out to you, or you can always ask her. But they realize the importance of tourism, and they go to a lot of lengths to make sure that tourists are protected. Um, and they spend some resources on that as well because they know that it's a big part of their economy. So some things to keep in mind are that please don't travel alone. So especially at night, if you ever find that you are needing to like walk home by yourself or whatever the case may be, we'll be giving you a list of all of the phone numbers for not only Blanca, but somebody related to the Spanish school, as well as they have these tuk-tuks, which are like those like motorized golf cart things that are kind of like taxis. And we have a couple tuk-tuk drivers that we know aren't, they would have worked with tourists and with our participants in the past. And so yeah, we'll have a phone list that has a lot of those contact people. So make sure that you're getting in touch with Blanca or calling the tuk-tuk that we have on our list as far as getting a ride to your family homestay if it's at nighttime. And I would probably do the same thing, here in Denver. I live in Denver, Colorado, and there's places here in Denver that are that I wouldn't want to be in at night or alone or at all. And so just make sure that you're exercising precaution. We have had people in the past that have like decided to go out on a jog in the early morning, and they'll like wear like flashy jewelry, or they'll get out their iPhone to take a picture or like do a video of something that they're noticing or something cool or whatever the case may be. And that's a big no-no as far as like, first of all, if you do feel like you need to go out on a jog, then make sure that you're going in towards the center of town where it's going to be a little bit more traffic of just like people. Don't go into the outskirts. And then second of all, please make sure that you're not sticking out as somebody from the U.S. or as somebody that's not from Guatemala, because if you do have your flashy jewelry, if you do have your phone and it's out, and especially if you're in an outskirt part of town, then that's asking for trouble. So just keep those kind of common sense type things in mind. And then the director of the Spanish school always likes to say, if you're out looking for trouble, you're probably going to find it. So that's where we definitely recommend, like, don't get to know the bar scene really well. If somebody asks to go back to their place, then that's definitely a big no-no as far as like if you meet somebody at like a restaurant or bar and they ask like, hey, let's go back and party at my place or whatever, then I have heard of some tourists that have gotten into some major situations as far as that goes. So common sense is the most valuable thing that you have as far as that goes. And, it's a really, really quaint, really, really cute, really, really tourist friendly colonial village, Antigua is. And typically it's a very, very safe town as well. All right. So culture shock. There's somebody named Vygotsky who is kind of like a psychologist, and he came up with this diagram or at least the terminology, that is a nice way that I like to discuss culture shock, because when you are going into a different country, it's not something that you have a lot of the same customs or ways of being as you're used to, then you are going to run into some culture shock. And that's okay. And so in our view, you're going to get out of your comfort zone, and that's totally fine. It's okay to take some risks as far as just being uncomfortable. And when you're in this middle circle here, the risk zone, that's when true learning happens. And that's when you are able to grow as a person and grow in kind of cultural awareness. But then, there may be times where you kind of go into this danger zone, super uncomfortable. You're not sure if you're going to be able to to make it work out. And that's where a couple of different things need to happen. First of all, and the reason why we're putting the two of you together is so you can support each other. We want to make sure that as a cohort, you're able to provide support for each other. And then same thing with the supports that we have as far as with Blanca, with the Spanish school, different things like that. Like, find a trusted Guatemalan and make sure that you're able to kind of talk through some of those different things that are going on, whether it's your host mother or Blanca or your Spanish teacher. And there will be opportunities if you are in that danger zone as well, where you can kind of just take a little break and just kind of go back into something that you might be used to from the United States. So like Antigua, it does have some like what they call gringo type places. Like they call gringos like people from the United States, which is not meant to be something that's like slander or anything like that. They say that terminology sometimes to my face, and they're like, "Yeah, you're a gringo," and it's not meant to be something that's like an insult. But so yeah, there's going to be little coffee shops, there's a bagel store, a bagel restaurant type place. There's some cute little restaurants and different things like that are specifically kind of for tourists. And so if you need to get away from the cultural side of things because you're in that danger zone, then yeah, feel free to take advantage of something like that. But in the homestay situation, we do ask that you are speaking Spanish at least during meals, and try to push yourself as far as speaking Spanish more than that with your host family or with anybody that you have met from Guatemala. And it's a safe environment as far as, practicing that Spanish with your host family or with your Spanish teacher or whatever the case may be. Moving on to frequently asked questions. So what should we pack and the money situation? So as far as packing goes, we're going to be actually opening up there's going to be a Google folder that I will give you access to that will have a packing list on there for those super detail-oriented type people that want to know exactly what you need to throw in your suitcase. But as a general piece of advice, I would say that Antigua is at a high altitude. I'm here in Denver at about 5,000 feet elevation, and Antigua is actually in a similar elevation than Denver. Not quite, but it's around 4,000 feet elevation. So when you will be down there in June, it will be what they call winter, believe it or not. And that's just mainly because it's the rainy season. And so keep in mind that you may see like local Guatemalans like wearing their jackets and that sort of thing. Definitely make sure that you're planning for the rain. Said 2 out of the last 3 years there, because I've been down for like the last 4 years. So 2 out of the, I guess it would be 2 out of the last 4 years, there's been something called canicula, which is when it's supposed to be the rainy season, but when the rains don't come, or there's an extended period within the rainy season when it doesn't rain. So if you're down there and the canicula comes, then it will still be fairly warm, fairly humid. Nothing like if you're going down to like a beach in Mexico where it's just like or like the southeast of the United States where it's just totally humid. It's not like that, but it's definitely more humid than like here in Denver and like the desert Southwest or whatever the case may be. So I do have a link that you can go into that has the climate information for Antigua month by month. So you can go ahead and check that out if you want. And then on money, the main thing as far as money goes is to make sure to call your bank to make sure that they know that you will be in Guatemala and the dates that you will be there. So it doesn't hurt to do that as soon as possible so that you don't forget, because we have had it in the past where people try to go to the ATM or they try to use their credit card or whatever, and they're not able to because it gets flagged as identity theft. And so make sure that they know that that's where you're going to be. I don't anticipate that you're going to need a lot of money. So when I say that, it's mainly for like gifts for your family, or a lot of people will do their Christmas shopping for the next year when they're down there or whatever. But, you know, if you do need to withdraw money, then the ATM is a possibility, and they always give the most recent exchange rate, but you are going to want to check with your bank on that one as well to see what the ATM international percentage is, because sometimes they'll have like a pretty steep percentage that they charge for using an international ATM machine. Some people feel that cash is the best way to go. So if you get like a money belt and you have, you know, whatever you'd like, a few $100s on your person, like under your regular clothes, then you can go to the bank once you get to Guatemala. And on our orientation, once we get down there, Blanca will take you by Parque Central, and there's a few banks to choose from that you can go and exchange money. You do need to have your passport for when you go to the bank to exchange money, and they only allow you to exchange $200 a week, which should be fine considering the fact that you won't need to worry about anything other than gifts. So that would probably be a good option, is just to bring cash down. Make sure if you do that, however, that you get the crispest dollars possible. And I would recommend either only $50 bills or $100 bills, because a lot of times they'll cringe a little bit, either A, if it's not a crisp bill, or B, if it's like a 20 or a 10 or something like that. Sometimes they don't accept bills below 50 at the bank. So they do have some issues with counterfeiting of dollars. So make sure that if you do decide to bring cash, that you're bringing cash that is crisp and 50s or 100s. As far as gifts go, so if you would be able to bring a gift for two different people, so for your homestay family, or at least your homestay mother, that would be a good idea to bring a small gift for her, and then for your Spanish instructor. So two small gifts, and a few ideas as far as what to get as far as those gifts go would be something like from your city or state of residence, or something that you have a personal connection with. You know, people will bring down little mugs or little bars of soap, or, you know, just things that have like a little magnet of your hometown, or different things like that. So please plan for that, because it is something that's just a really great courtesy to be able to have that for those two people. And let me know if you have questions on that. Finally, as far as frequently asked questions, Guatemala is in the mountain time zone, so it's the same time as Denver, Colorado. Don't expect some of the luxuries that you might have at home. So they do have a gym, believe it or not. But as far as internet access, even if most of the families that we work with do have internet access at home, at their house, but it's not, even if they do, it's not something that's going to be super strong. So it's not like you can do like this major FaceTime conversation with your family back home. It's going to be a pretty weak connection, where it'll take a lot longer as far as the bandwidth goes to go through and get to your page that you need, or whatever the case may be. But the Spanish school does have a little bit better of a Wi-Fi, and you'll have some breaks and before and after class if you'd like to head in there early, or during your break in the middle of your 4-hour class, to be able to do that. So, but don't expect a lot of those things that are kind of like taken for granted for in the US. And then the homestay living situation. There will be, like I had previously mentioned, more than just you, and that's meant to also be as a support. And it might be, there might be a couple of other people even besides the two of you. So that's something where you won't have more than two people in a room. where there might be like 2 single or double beds where you'll have your own bed, but you might be rooming with each other. But there might be like another room where there would be 2 other people in that room that would also be sharing meals with you. So yeah, plan for that. I don't have any. I bet that'll be fine with you guys since you're college students, but that is something to keep in mind. So a little bit about the calendar and the schedule. The 3 weeks are going to go by quickly. There's a lot of activities that we've kind of put into those 3 weeks. So, and that's intentional. We want to make it so you can get the most out of this experience. But it's one of those things where I'm sure that by the time you get to July 3rd and you're heading back home, you're going to be wondering where all the time went. So, the excursions are something that I'm just really excited about for you guys. You're going to get a chance, and again, this is all included in your tuition. You're going to get a chance to go to Lake Atitlan, which is kind of a natural gem of all of Guatemala, and in fact, all of Central America, where it's this. And actually, there's a picture of it. I believe there will be a picture of it on the cover of your rough guide to Guatemala, and there's a big section in there that talks about Lake Atitlan as well. So that's going to be on your first weekend in Guatemala. You'll be heading to Lake Atitlan with Blanca. And then during the second week, you're going to do a volcano hike where there's an active volcano that you'll be hiking on. It is active, but it hasn't done any damage as far as like villages or towns or people or anything like that for many, many years. So it's something that, but it's really cool. You get a chance to like roast marshmallows using the lava vents and different things like that. So it's not like you'll necessarily see lava, but they have like this like field that has like some hot pockets of vents where you'll be able to like roast your marshmallows. So, and then on that last weekend from from June 30th to July 3rd is when you'll be in Tikal National Park, which again are the Mayan ruins. And that's going to be a great experience for you guys. It's beautiful. Like I had previously said, it is in the rainforest. It's in the jungle, but then you've just got these just towering pyramids that the Mayans built like 1,000 years ago that are coming out of the canopy of the rainforest. So a lot of different things to look forward to as far as the various excursions. And then on meals, all meals will be provided, although the families will not provide meals on Sundays. Lake Atitlan, you will be there on a Sunday, so that's something that you won't really have to worry about. You'll be eating your meal at the hotel. It's not really a hotel. It's a little bit smaller. I consider it kind of more of like a bed and breakfast / hostel, but it's right on the lake, and they have a great little yummy restaurant that you'll be able to choose a few different things from for each meal. And that'll be provided on that Sunday. And then on the only Sunday that Blanca is going to be going through with you as far as the meals go that you will be in Antigua is the 24th and 25th of June. And so that 25th is when Blanca will be helping you out as far as for one of the meals. There's this really amazing brunch that's like kind of on the side of a mountain outside of town that you'll be going to. So that'll be a lot of fun. It's got an all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet. And then for dinner, she'll be also helping you out as far as making sure that you're good with that. And then for Tikal, that's the other Sunday that you're going to be there for. So that'll be also something where you'll be at a hotel, and there will be a restaurant there, and you'll have 2 or 3 different things that you can choose from for each meal for that as well. So a little bit of background finally about the medical activities. So again, super excited for you guys. I think that it's going to really give you a great exposure as far as the medical side and as far as learning Spanish in a medical context. But keep in mind that this is not going to be something where you're necessarily going to be like treating patients or, just working totally side by side with one doctor in particular or things like that. So, so that first week, you will have an opportunity to go to both an urban hospital in Antigua and then a rural clinic at a village outside of Antigua. Um, so for the second or third week, you'll either do one or the other. So you may, after going into the urban hospital, you may say, yeah, that's what I want to do for the next 2 weeks. Or you may say, you know, after going into that rural clinic, that yes, this is what I want to do for my observations for the next 2 weeks. So you'll be able to choose which one out of those two that you are going to do. And then also on the medical side of things, it's actually a US based college professor who lives in Antigua. Dr. Nemechek is his name. He's going to be giving you guys a lecture. And with only 2 people, it can be super informal, where maybe it'll be something where you can meet up at a coffee shop or something like that. But he's going to be talking about the Guatemalan healthcare system. And so I'm really excited for that for you. And then with the Spanish classes, you know, as being private classes that you'll be doing, and I believe for you guys, it's going to be around, I want to say 16 hours, or no, 5 times 3, 15, 4 times, 16 hours a week of Spanish classes. So you will have a conversation with your Spanish teacher at the beginning of, which will be, I believe, on the 12th. You'll have a conversation as far as what you're hoping to get from the medical perspective out of your classes. And then you will also have a chance each week to be able to kind of revisit that topic. And so make sure that you're super transparent on that as far as what the expectations are. We are kind of in a conversation with the Spanish school about what it should look like. So we're also going to be specifying these items. But some ideas of what you can try to work on would be obviously the patient interview, where you can do like a mock patient interview where you can take turns being the patient and like asking questions and as the provider to be able to answer those questions and to do the various evaluations. And then anatomy and medical terminology are also items that they have materials and resources for, and they've done before when they've had nurses, doctors, PAs, etc. Come through the Spanish school. So those are all things that are possible, luckily, with the fact that it is a private Spanish class situation that you'll be able to choose from. Quick note on the airport transfers. So there's only one exit from customs and passport control. And so it's kind of like the one meeting point at Guatemala City Airport that all of the people go to try to meet up with their arrivals, their international arrivals. And so from that point, you're going to be looking for a sign with your name on it, as well as the SpanishMedical.com logo and name. And so it also is helpful if you would be able to wear your SpanishMedical.com t-shirt that you will get or that you have gotten. Then that would be a great thing as well, so that our people will be able to find you and flag you down, because sometimes there's as many as like, 75 to 150 people at this one spot trying to meet up with their people. So it's kind of hard to look around, but we've always been able to find people and make sure that they are able to head back to Antigua. But sometimes it can get a little tricky. So that's a good tip, is to be able to wear your Spanish Medical t-shirt as well, even if you just bring it along in your carry-on and you put it on right before you head out to meet up with the transport company that we use. So I would recommend that as well. So you will be, like I said, getting a Google folder that will be including a map. And so we have created a Google map that will have some of the prominent different landmarks on there that we will be using regularly. So anything from our Spanish school to the supermarket to Parque Central, to the laundry place that we use. So you're going to be able to get some laundry. So that's something to be looking out for, as well as the host family that you'll be staying with there'll be a little mark on there as well. So that's something that you can make sure to be on the lookout for at when we do provide access to that Google folder, which will probably be within the next week or two. And then finally, if you are able to, I would highly recommend some of these books and documentaries, some of which are available directly for free on Netflix streaming if you have a Netflix account. And then others of which, as far as the documentaries are concerned, that you may be able to either rent from your local library or your college library, or to at least maybe find on YouTube. But as far as the books, the main one that I would really extremely recommend is called I, Rigoberta Menchú, this first bullet point here. And so that is by a Nobel Peace Prize winning indigenous Guatemalan woman, who I believe she won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1994. And it really provides a good context for the indigenous Guatemalan struggle. So if you are able to, I would try to check that out at the library or get a copy. You can get it on like a used book website for like $1, plus shipping or whatever the case may be. So, and then the other ones are also the Silence on the Mountain and The Bitter Fruit are talking about the civil conflict. So that would be something that I would also recommend as far as your books. Well, I think that we have reached the end of the road, guys. So I did want to really thank you for joining me. As I already said, I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I think it's going to be a great experience. And as always, let me actually just check my email real quick to see if we have anything. Okay. So yeah, as any questions come up, if you're not able to view the video until later, then that's totally fine. Feel free to email, or you can always give me a call on my cell phone. I've got my cell phone number at the bottom of every email that gets sent out. So those are always options as questions come up. But remember, we are going to be having that final orientation session a few weeks before departure. So you can kind of anticipate that as far as, when we'll talk more about the family homestay situation and a little bit more logistical type concerns. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to your experience. I think it's going to be great. And thank you for joining me today. And take care. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.